Devy Degens. We are live today with another episode. I'm S. Romero with my co-host Tommy Harvey, here to talk about some players that are going under the radar that you need to start looking at before it's too late. All that and much more right after our intro.
Breaking down the hate, man, we call it like we see it. Finding all the gems while the rest just sleeping. Freshmen to the league, we ahead of the curve. Picking out the next star, put them on the reserve. From the big time schools to the deep cut finds. Gotta know who's next when it's draft day time. Stock rising, playmaking, watch them ball out. Devy Degens, yeah, no doubt. Yo, it's time to talk the future Devy style. Prospects rising, diamonds shining. Only the real ones grinding. Welcome to the Devy Degens, let's go. Let's go!
We call it like we see it. Devy Degens, I'm S. Romero, my co-host Tommy Harvey, again here to talk to you about under the radar players that you need to be having on your rosters now, or everyone that's going in their Monday night duels. Hopefully your manifesting's happening right and everything works out well. I know Tommy was saying earlier he needs Amon-Ra and Jared Goff to pick it up. I do need Jared Goff to pick it up as well. But Tommy, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing all right. For a Monday, start of the week.
For sure. Today was a Monday for sure, man. There is some things happening. We're like, man, this should be Sunday. It's not a good day to start the week. It was, but we're here. We're gonna talk again under the radars. Before we do that, we're gonna get into some players that caught our eye over this weekend. Amir's, thanks for jumping in, saying, should I hold or drop Darian? Assuming Darian Brown. If this is Devy League, you can. I mean, C2C, I don't think there's a point necessarily. But it would also depend on who you're picking up, I would say, right? What do you see here? CT hold or drop?
Yeah, I mean, if there's somebody out there better to pick up, then drop them. But, I mean, it also depends on how deep your roster is. I mean,
right.
If you're talking a 5 or 7 man Devy roster, then, yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at dropping them.
Right.
But if it's really deep, if you're looking at 15 to 20 man Devy roster, kind of like we got in one of our leagues, then he's probably hold.
Yeah, true. I mean, because you have to understand, even though Barry's not shining, he's still in the LSU. He's probably going to end up staying another year. I think he has one more year of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken.
And he's also an elite return man. So that can also translate to the next level pretty well, especially if he starts getting reps as a wide receiver too.
Right.
That can translate pretty well.
Right. So there's a lot of things there. I mean, look at your Devy roster there, Amir, in that league, and let us know if there's anyone that you'd consider picking up there for him, because there always is hidden gems that you could. Thing is, he's an SEC, so even if you're looking at a guy in, say, the Big 12, chances are Barry might get better opportunity just being in SEC. So it's not these considered just instead dropping. Don't drop him just to drop him. Definitely have a backup if there is someone. For sure, 100%. Jamie, thanks for joining in, my guy. Tommy, before we get into our Devy under the radar players, our sleepers here, let's talk about some players that caught our eye. And I think we would be doing an injustice if we do not talk about Eric McAllister out of TCU. Really just had his breakout game. Huge game for him. 8 receptions, 14 targets, 254 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 145 of those yards came after the contact. This is something we needed Eric McAllister to really have, just to go out there and showcase he can be a top wide receiver. I mean, there is still Jordan Dwyer there, but his quarterback is actually what someone talk about a little bit later. But what were your thoughts on Eric McAllister's game this week and really his career game?
Yeah, he showed his elite traits, right? I mean, being at that elite kind of downfield stretch receiver. He had one touchdown of 72 and another of 55, I believe.
Right.
If I'm not
55,
mistaken.
54. Yeah.
Yeah. He's long, 6'3", kind of that prototypical, size, speed type of receiver.
Right.
And honestly, it's like you said, we've kind of been waiting for the last couple of years for this guy to blow up.
Right.
And I think he's finally about to do it.
Yeah, and off this game, I'm trying to pull up my notes here on him. because it was a huge game. He scored it was a 44-yard touchdown, and as you mentioned, he had a bigger one earlier as well. Just completely dominated it. I mean, it was phenomenal to see him do it. This is again something where he's been a good receiver. See the game like this still goes to show, okay, he does have that, because it was stuff that he was doing after the catch. It wasn't just deep balls from Hoover. He was actually making the play himself to go out there and get the catch and run.
Well, and also, he did kind of make that move from G5 to Power 4 last year. So
Right.
some of that could have been just making the adjustment. And we're going to talk about another guy who's doing that successfully this year, also a little bit later
Right.
on in the show.
Right.
Making that G5 to Power 4 move. Sometimes it takes a while.
Right.
So hopefully this is the start of something great for him.
And our next guy here, I mean, he was under the radar, I feel like, to begin the season. I've talked about him as my Devy RB6. Let me see. Jamie's asking a question here. My co-host ended up making that trade for Antonio Williams, but instead of giving up Mr. Bill in the third, he replaced him with James Conner, so it worked out for him. Nice. James Conner's out for the season now, so sometimes
and James Conner's career could possibly be over now too. I mean, he's an older guy. Yeah. He may end up getting some getting some more run throughout his career, but as far as him being that
an asset,
that asset, I think you're probably done with it.
Yeah, probably a goal line. And hopefully, we talked about our RB1 for the class last year. Trey mentioned this is opportunity for him to finally get some work as well. But speaking of running backs, so again, I had him as my Devy RB6 is really blowing up. Missouri running back Ahmad Hardy right now leading the Power 4 with 600 rushing yards, 458 of those yards coming after contact, 6 touchdowns, 37 missed tackles, which I believe leads the FBS right now. Last week, 138 yards, 118 after contact, and 9 missed tackles forced. Ahmad Hardy just continues to show up. I know we could talk about the first 3 weeks, how it was against lesser competition. This week, he actually played against an SEC team. It's continuing to grow. And I think the biggest thing is he's showing he can be a premier running back in the SEC, and that's a big part of it in general. And this is really the biggest. I don't want to compare him to Jency. I know Jency had a great year. Jency had a great year in the G5. Jency chose not to transfer up. He said he wants to build that legacy. Cool, go ahead and do it. Ahmad Hardy, as a true freshman, had a great season. Came in as a sophomore now, is continuing to show he still hasn't had a game without 100 yards rushing quite yet. Again, you can say competition hasn't been there. What's it going to be like as he gets deeper into SEC? Missouri does have a pretty strong schedule coming up. But it's showing right now, and I absolutely love everything about Ahmad Hardy. This is a kid that is getting the run, and we're going to be talking about him for years to come. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, talk about Ashton Genty. If you were to ask that bum Ryan Clark about him, he'd tell you he's trash. But Ahmad Hardy, I wasn't necessarily a believer coming into the season just because, transferring up from that, lower level G5.
Right. Louisiana Monroe.
Right. But he has he's turned heads. I think he's definitely got the juice. I think he's definitely got the ability. And the more he gets into SEC play, if he can continue this, I don't see why he couldn't skyrocket up your Devy rankings.
Right.
You have him at the RB6.
Possibly moved up on him because Makai was ahead of him.
But, yeah, I mean,
he might move up now.
I was kind of redoing my rankings the other day, and with mine, let's see where I have him at. I've got him RB7 right now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and he's really he's really opened a lot of eyes. So much to where in one of our leagues, I didn't realize he was still available.
Right, same.
Yeah,
tragically.
Yeah, Spencer picked him up, and I knew that was going to upset you.
Yeah. Every time Spencer does some stuff like that, I'm like, damn it, he's paying attention there. But yeah, I mean, that's the downfall of playing so many Devy leagues, right? You do miss those guys that you're high on. That's like, man, I thought he was taken somewhere else, going back and forth and looking at them. So he's definitely that's continuing to rise. Again, the schedule does get tougher for Missouri. So seeing how he is, Missouri doesn't need to win the games. I just want to see him go out there and actually compete. So it's something great to see what he's doing. Travis Ballers, thanks for joining in, asking where the Power Father is. Hey, Potfather has a family, and we're part of that family, man. So thanks for joining in here. Amir's in that league with us about where Spencer picked him up. He didn't see him in there either. So always pay attention to your Devy leagues, the rosters, and who there is. Even though they're deeper leagues, I mean, you never know who might be slipping under the radars there, right? So another one I want to talk about, just because I feel like we've been waiting for this season at least. A lot of people have him as the RB1 of the class of 2026. I'm not sure where he is on consensus now, but Jeremiah Love finally had that breakout game for the season. 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, 98 yards after contact. Hopefully this is the beginning of the journey for Jeremiah, right? And what he's going to be doing for Notre Dame. We talked about before that Notre Dame just needs love. That's all they need is love for have a big game. Looks like he got his feet under him. And hopefully this is the progression to say, okay, this is a guy that we thought was the RB1 of the class. And now he finally is leading up to that. First 2 weeks, last week he had 98 yards, or the week prior, I mean. But it still was like, we need to see more of it, and finally, all right, here we go. I always question Notre Dame doesn't have the toughest schedule. They play some predominantly not so strong teams, so it's easier for him to have a big season. But it was nice to see him get back on the positive side of the century mark. Any thoughts on Love?
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's success is going to hinge on what Jeremiah Love does.
Right.
You know, their first loss of the season, they just didn't give him the ball. You know, he had 10 touches in that game, and it cost him. You know, they probably should have beaten Miami in that game. But then they didn't give him the ball enough, and they really paid the price for it. For sure.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something we see a lot more moving forward. Is just hand it off to him, and he's going to be doing it. Another one that just caught my eye, we'll continue moving forward, was Tulsa running back Dominic Richardson. Had his way with Oklahoma State. 4.6 yards per carry, 146 yards, 130 after contact. They just couldn't take him. He was very slippery out there, just using his strength, using his agility just to get by the Oklahoma State defenders. It looks like Oklahoma State's down bad after that loss to Oregon. They're just sinking ship. It's probably a matter of time before Mike Gundy's probably out there. But what are your thoughts on that game with Dominic Richardson?
Yeah, that's a really bad loss for Oklahoma State.
Bad loss.
You know, yeah, Tulsa's not a good team, and the way that Oklahoma State lost that game, I'd like to see how much they paid Tulsa to come in and beat them. Honestly, I haven't seen the numbers on it, but I would like to know how much money they paid that Tulsa program to come in and beat them.
So hey, we'll give you some NIL money so you can come in here and do it. But yeah, just a bad loss. You know, there are bad losses happen every week, but Oklahoma State back-to-back just blowouts that weren't great. I mean, there's something's got to give there in Oklahoma State. But something's got to give there. We got to give a little bit back and talk to y'all about some of our Devy under the radar guys. That's the purpose of this whole show here today. Just give you some guys that are probably still, you might have some of them that have a little bit of heat under their name, but still some guys that you need to be watching out for. And if they're available in your leagues, go out there and pick them up. First, we're going to talk about some quarterbacks here, and that's going to be Cincinnati quarterbacks Brenden Sorsby. Great size, has some mobility. This guy is hitting everywhere with his marks. I feel at times Desmond Ridder had a better IQ, but Sorsby's growing into that. We're showing he is. Cincinnati has produced quarterbacks. I feel like their quarterbacks always go under the radar. Sorsby being one of them, because Sorsby has shown more leadership traits. And if you're watching Cincinnati and what they do, he is someone that is progressing and getting better as the time goes. So what are your thoughts on Sorsby there?
Yeah, Sorsby's got great size, 6'3", 235. He has really good mobility. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can make every throw out there. And I think he could push for into the first round, but more likely he's probably going to be a day 2 pick.
Really? Oh, end of the first round. That's spicy. I don't know if he'd be end of the first round. I think he could move into day 2. This next class is going to be so odd because right now, some of the guys we talked about are dropping.
There's a bunch of quarterbacks. I mean, you got Sorsby, you got, you're going to have Sawyer Robertson, you got Nussmeier, you got Lenore Sellers, who's probably going to come out. You got, tons of guys out there. So, we kind of mentioned a couple weeks ago, there's probably going to be 6 or 7 teams that could potentially take a quarterback first round. Right. So, Sorsby could end up working his way into that, especially with his, with the way he's going to test at the combine. Also, he just has to continue to put up good film on the, good film out there.
Forgive me for not having this. So, what is their record right now? Are they?
I believe they're 3-0, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see where they're at. Cincinnati.
I may be wrong.
Cincinnati. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Looking here. 2-1. 2-1.
Who'd they
So,
lose to?
oh, and they're in the Big 12, right? They're Big
Big
12. I
12,
was thinking ACC. So they're in Big 12. So that's even better. So I mean, that's one that's up for grabs too, right? I mean, the Big 12. We're going to talk about quarterback here in just a second. That might have some opportunity there, but
Yeah, that's right.
Baylor 2-2. You know, OK State's. We talked about them being out. Utah lost this past week. Iowa State's 4-0, but they're beatable. BYU's 3-0. There's the Big 12's up for grabs. Is what I'm trying to get at. And so Sorsby comes down and does some great things with Cincinnati. There's opportunity for him to definitely push up because really. When it comes to like the Big 12 ACC, I feel if you win that conference, you automatically put yourself higher, right? Obviously, you can't necessarily say that the SEC, Big 12, you can still have other teams kind of SEC, Big 10 still kind of go in there. So Sorsby, if he leads Cincinnati to a great season, there's opportunity for that to just raise his ladder as well. But definitely a guy that will, probably gain some buzz around draft time. You say first round, I can see more day 2, but again, the way these quarterbacks are playing right now, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there's opportunity there for him. So what else I want to talk about here? This is someone that we have mentioned before, so I don't know how much of under the radar he is, but I know he wasn't getting the buzz as before as we were talking about it. But it's going to be Taylen Green at Arkansas. Look, when I first started talking about Taylen Green, people laughed at me. I'm not going to lie. People were like, Taylen Green, who's that? Arkansas? Look, if you liked Anthony Richardson's combine performance, if you're a fan of what just Herbert is in the size, that's again what Taylen Green is. He does need to get polished around, but he has the athleticism to break out big plays, the speed to break out big plays. He has the arm strength to go out there and make some deep balls. If you go out there and give him an Ohio State type of offense where they have wide receivers that can do that, trust me, he's going to go out there and fly. He doesn't have that. He does have a good wide receiver in Omega Blake, but he doesn't have the backup as some of these other premier SEC teams may have. Put him on LSU's teams, I guarantee you he's going to be doing 10 times better than what Nussmeier is doing right now. And this is a guy that isn't getting as much love, but he needs to. 6'6", about 230 or 240, is going to go out there and do some big numbers. I'm excited to see what the growth in Taylen Green is. I'm not going to push him into the first round, but I do think there is opportunity where we might be talking about him as a Heisman finalist. Any thoughts on Taylen Green?
Yeah, I'd kind of push the brakes on, Heisman finalists there, especially for a team that's going to go like 3-9, 4-8.
Possibly.
But Taylen Green does have the goods. He's got everything you want. He's a little turnover prone, but if he could clean that up, which wouldn't take much, honestly. He's got the arm talent, he's got the mobility, he's got great size.
Right.
I just think he kind of needs to clean up his interceptions a little.
Right.
Kind of makes some dumb throws from time to time, but honestly, what college quarterback doesn't?
Right.
We've seen Arch Manning and DJ Lagway make terrible throws early, early in the season. So, but Taylen Green, if a team liked Anthony Richardson, I don't see why they wouldn't like Taylen Green. Taylen Green's better.
Right, especially if he goes out there and shows out the combine. You just say like 3 or 4 game wins. I just will go over their schedule real quick because next week they have Notre Dame at Arkansas. Notre Dame, I don't know if I think they could beat Notre Dame. Will they? That's another story, but I think they could. Now, what you mentioned on Taylen Green having those interceptions, that's definitely something that if he doesn't commit or make those dumb throws, because he does kind of play jackpot sometimes. If he doesn't play that, then sure, I think there's opportunity. At Tennessee, I'll give that to Tennessee, right? So we'll say they're 1-1 these next 2 weeks. Versus A&M, A&M's the best team in Texas when we're talking about SEC teams. So I'm going to give A&M that win. Auburn at Arkansas, I think that could be a toss-up. I think it really could. I like Auburn a little bit more, but I can't see Arkansas beating them. Mississippi State, that's one of your lower-ended SEC teams. You never want to count an SEC team out, but let's say they could beat them too. So now they've won 3 of their last 5, but then they get LSU, at Texas, and then versus Missouri. So losing those, so we can say they're going to be, what'd you say, like 6 wins. So, okay.
You think they're going to go 6 wins?
I mean,
I don't think there's any shot.
You don't think so? Do you think they lose all those except what, Mississippi State?
I think that they could potentially lose Mississippi State.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, well let's just chalk that up to when that happens. Because next week, let's see if they beat Notre Dame, we'll have a different discussion possibly. But let's see what they do next week when they host Notre Dame there. Our next guy here though, we're gonna talk about, as I mentioned, TCU's wide receiver Eric McCosker had a breakout game. A lot of that was because quarterback Josh Hoover, who really doesn't get a lot of love. I mean, he is someone that who was their quarterback that got drafted from TCU a couple years ago? Who was it? Now with Quentin Johnson. He was a backup to the Chargers. I'll have to look it up. Give me 1 second. But Josh Hoover is a smarter quarterback. He has the mechanics to do well. He is leading the team. He doesn't make the common mistakes. He does make them, but he's not making just dumb. He is accurate with his passes as well. Definitely someone that could draw to get some opportunities at that next level for TCU in general. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, 6'2", just over 200 pounds. He's a really quick processor. He's fearless with the ball. He'll throw the ball anywhere.
Yeah,
it's at any time. He's a good downfield attacker. He's really, really good with the off-platform throws, and he has tremendous layering.
right.
You'll see him, just drop a dime right over the top of somebody.
Right.
And and it looks great. He doesn't have elite, an elite arm. He doesn't have, just tremendous mobility. But what he does have is that ability to, just kind of pick people apart.
Right. Quarterback I was thinking was Max Duggan. He's definitely better than Duggan there. But again, so that I feel he plays with patience. He doesn't try to force those type of throws. He does make some good, accurate throws there. He's someone that I think can continue to grow and get further. I don't see him as a first round prospect, but I do think there's opportunity where he may slip into the back end of day 2, or possibly even be just that still in your day 3 as well.
I was telling you about a mock draft that CBS did earlier. Mm-hmm. They had Hoover going in the first round.
Really? Okay. Late first?
Mid, I think like 17th or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. See how it shapes out.
Yeah, again, speaking of that mock draft, the next guy we're about to talk about, that CBS mock draft had him going number 1. So we can kind of start taking this guy off the sleeper list here. But
so let's go ahead and talk about him though.
Yeah.
Because back-to-back games with the 5 touchdowns, but I'll let you speak on it.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza, big tall dude, 6'5", the transfer in from Cal. I never really saw a whole lot special in him, other than he just, he just kind of gets it done. We've seen that over the last couple of weeks, especially on Saturday going up against a top 10 Illinois team. 5 more touchdowns against them. That's back-to-back games with 5+ touchdowns. He accounted for 6 the week before. Yeah, he accounted the 6. He accounted for 6 the week before, and then 5. This past weekend. That's gonna, people are gonna start taking notice of that. Especially with his kind of prototypical size he's got for a quarterback.
And I would say this was really the battle between Illinois versus Luke Altmyer and Fernando Mendoza. I think Indiana does have the better defense, but I expected more out of Altmyer, and they just completely shut him down. It was absolutely insane, and it came down to Mendoza just wasn't being stopped, and he's on fire right now. Now he does have a tougher schedule coming up. 73 points in Indiana State, 63 last week against Illinois. Now they're at Iowa. Iowa's not ranked, but Iowa can put on a good show, right? Then you go at Oregon, number 6 right now, who has a big game against Penn State this week, but. And then you go Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State. So it'll be interesting to see what he does over these next 3. Again, early in the season, it's easier for us to push these guys up based on statistics and what they do. Mm-hmm. But this is where now we're getting into the meat of it, where the stars are really going to shine. We're really going to find out who's real and who's not when it comes to these type of players, right? But right now, Fernando Mendoza doing phenomenal things. And, hey, the QBs that we talked about as top quarterbacks are slipping. And they have – excuse me. The biggest thing is, they haven't won the games they need to win, right? That's the biggest part there. These early games are games that some of these top programs, your Clemson, your LSU, the LSU is winning them, but based on the defense. But you need to be blowing out these teams because the schedule gets harder as you go into this conference play. Indiana's no difference. The schedule is going to get harder as you go into teams that are in your conference that are battling to beat you out of that championship as well. So there is opportunity there for for Fernando Mendoza to go out there and become that QB1. If he has some big games, even in losses, if he loses to Oregon, okay. If he loses to Penn State, okay. But if he still throws 4 or 5 touchdowns, great. That's still going to look good for him, right? That just means Oregon and Penn State threw 6 touchdowns, whatever it was, right? So there is some big games coming up. So I'm excited to see how he grows and does it. As you mentioned, they have his QB1, so maybe not a sleeper. But I will say, I feel like he's still in a bunch of Devy waivers. Unless, again, you're in a deeper league like we are at 15-20. If you're doing the 5-7-man rosters, I bet Fernando Mendoza is still there. So you might want to take a look at opportunity for him there. Our next guy, I just want to touch on him just a tad bit because I feel we need to. Sophomore quarterback Darian Mensah out of Duke. Now, Duke isn't the best at football. I'm not going to go out there and say he's a top, but I do think he needs to get some recognition because he has thrown, 1,300 yards, 67% completion, 2 interceptions to 11 touchdowns. That's pretty nice. And I really do like what he's doing with Duke. And to the point where I can see he possibly does end up transferring out potentially this next season, because transfer portal is crazy. He can end up transferring out and going to a Big Ten, maybe an SEC school, leaving the ACC. But I do like what I'm seeing from him transferring out from Tulane now to over here as well and still doing what he was doing at Tulane as well. Any thoughts on Mensah?
Yeah, somebody's going to have to pony up some money for him because I think Duke's paying him $4 million a year. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It'd be kind of hard to lure him away from that. But
true.
Mensah's putting up a good year. He had a great season last year at Tulane. Mm-hmm. He's kind of rapidly turning himself into an NFL prospect.
Yeah, I did forget about that. I think it was a $10 million offer for him. So overall, maybe. So that's true. Make your money, Mensah. I love it. But let's go into some running backs now. Those were our quarterbacks that we had: Brenden Sorsby, Taylen Green, Josh Hoover, Fernando Mendoza, and Darian Mensah. One of those, I promise you, is available in your Devy League, so be on the lookout for them. Stolen Balloon came out here and said, I traded Neighbors for Chase. Thoughts? Well, you're probably down bad, because Chase lost his quarterback. Neighbors probably getting Dart in there. But I mean, any way you could get Chase, it's not a bad move. Chase is a dominant wide receiver. Any thoughts on that?
Neither one of them had a good game yesterday, so it really didn't help you much.
But
But
is this dynasty or redraft? Because that does make a difference. I guess.
And I would hope you got. You traded Neighbors for Chase. Did you have to give anything else up with Neighbors for Chase?
Wait, and I'm assuming this is Jamar Chase, not Chase Brown. Also,
right,
that makes a difference too. Because,
I would take Jamar Chase over basically any other wide receiver.
Yeah, so there's a lot. Is a redraft? Is that Chase Brown or Jamar Chase? And that was make a difference because
dynasty wise, sure. right. Dynasty redraft maybe not because his quarterback situation is dicey. Right now.
Right.
So.
And the dynasty or redraft there, Balloon.
Jake Browning throwing the ball doesn't really give off a whole lot of confidence.
Right. For sure. Let's go to our running backs here, though, as we talk about it. First being one out of Ohio State, and maybe not a sleeper anymore, but Bo Jackson out of Ohio State really came over and took the reins. I personally, I did like him, but I definitely thought James People was going to be the guy there. Mm-hmm. Bo Jackson said, nah, it's me. I knew it wasn't going to be Campbell, right? Is it CJ Campbell? I knew it wasn't going to be him.
It's Donaldson, CJ Donaldson.
Campbell's at Rutgers.
Campbell's at Rutgers, yeah.
Yeah. Donaldson, I knew it wasn't going to be him. Just simply, obviously, he's going to be more of your goal line. But Bo Jackson's really taking it in that it's his backfield. Freshman, there's going to be opportunity for him. This is a guy, if he's available, you need to be picking him up immediately. Any thoughts on Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, he's got good size. Obviously has the great name, Bo Jackson. Everybody's going to love that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But, he's come in and in his limited carries has put up really big numbers so far. Back-to-back 100-yard games, I believe so. Over his last two.
Right.
That's about as impressive as it gets for a true freshman running back that's not getting a whole lot of touches.
I actually think someone that told me that his first name is actually Lamar, so it's Lamar Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
So definitely some asset there just going off the name. He definitely has some star traits to him.
Yeah. Is either Lamar Jackson or Bo Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Both are great.
Both are running backs, right? I'm just kidding. Not Lamar, but you know what it is. But our next one here, let's just hit on him. Kewan Lacy out of Ole Miss. This is someone I was higher on coming into the season just because I thought he was going to take it, and he has taken it and ran with it as RB1 for Ole Miss. Having an absolutely stellar year, 358 yards, 4.5 with yards per carry there, 7 7 touchdowns already. Any thoughts on Kewan Lacy right now?
Yeah, he kind of fits perfectly what that Ole Miss offense wants to do, right? You know, he's not he's not a pounder, but they're going to give that to Logan Diggs. But Kewan Lacy is he's going to make guys miss. He's got pretty decent speed. He's got great first cut ability. And he's not afraid of contact, but he can definitely get around it.
Right. And he saw that he is showing his elusiveness and agility there. Degens, thanks for joining in, man. The guy, the fantasy alert boy, joined in. Late start for me, what I missed. We talked about our QB sleepers and some recap of this past week. Now we're into running back sleepers for your Devy. Appreciate you joining in and watching this Monday night with us. Now, with Kewan Lacy, where do you see it? Do you see him slipping into day 2? As a running back, or is he just a day 4? And it's not bad that he's day 3. That's how the running backs go in the NFL. But do you see him potentially slipping into a day 2 prospect?
It just kind of depends on how he continues to progress.
Yeah.
I don't see. He's a sophomore this year, right? So he wouldn't be able to come out anyways. But
right.
So he's not eligible till 2027.
Yeah.
I mean, you start looking at the 2027 backs. I mean, it's potentially he's a kind of a day 2 guy.
Right. And again, continue to see how he does it. But right now, it is looking great for Kewan there, Ole Miss, and what he's going to do, possibly being the leader next year as well. Our next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Dierre Hill, running back out of Oregon, freshman coming in. If y'all do follow me in my shows with the Oregon, I've been talking about Dierre Hill. This guy is absolutely stud. Definitely a speedster, has the late round ability to make it happen. He is showing off that he can take some reps. I think he's number 2 to Oregon behind Jaden Lamar right now as far as rushing yards, because Jaden Lamar just had a big game. But Dierre Hill is showing everything he needs to do to really gain the traction of being their top RB moving forward. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's kind of like today's running backs. He's that 5'10", 5'11" type of guy, just over 200 pounds. He has good, not elite speed. He was a track guy in high school. Ran. I think his best was 11:04. 100. So he doesn't have elite speed, but he's got really good speed. He's able to break away with a really good with a really good initial burst though.
Right.
He has that kind of quick first step. To where he's going to get by and go. Right. He kind of has that look of the next kind of Bucky Irving in that Oregon offense, in my opinion.
And yeah, no, he's definitely someone that's going to continue to rise. And I think it's great. These Oregon, the way they're feeding the ball around, not just the receivers, but the running backs, they look very dangerous. And that what brings me into our next running back here is also Oregon. That we'll talk about Jordon Davison out of Mater Dei, or what was out of Mater Dei now of Oregon. Continue doing his thing as well. Him and Dierre are going to be a perfect lightning and thunder, fire and ice, whatever you want to say is opposite. They're definitely going to be in there. Jordan Davis is kind of giving me the Ligarian Blood type of vibes. Like right now, they're just using him in the goal line. He's leading the team with 6 touchdowns, but he can break out too. And I feel they end up giving him that work once some of these other guys, your Lamars, your Whittingtons, kind of ease out and go their way. We could see some opportunity from Davis to just being a big bruiser, but breaking out some big plays as well. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw him get some goal line touches the other day in that Oregon State game. It's almost like guys are afraid to hit him.
Big kid.
He does have he's got some size to him.
Right.
I would like to see him in the open field a little bit more, see what he can do. That kind of regard.
Right.
But with like you said, Jalen Lamar, Dierre Hill, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of Jordan Davison just, get that kind of open space type of run.
Yeah. Oregon, everyone looks fast when they get the ball, just the way their outfits are, their uniforms, right? Everyone just looks like that's where they're going. But no, I agree. He's going to be their goal line back this year, but I'll be excited to see that progression for him. Those 2 freshmen, I think, should still be on your waivers, especially in your, again, 5 to 7-man rosters there as well. Next one here, someone could be on the waivers, but he's definitely rising up as well. And we're going to go, I guess you could say, a former rivalry with Oregon, but now USC, Waymond Jordan, running back. This guy is just someone that continues to show out. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a guy that's going through and through just to break out those big plays like the home run type of hitter, but you really can't take him down. That's the way it's looking right now. He's showing out that contact balance of what he can do. Any thoughts on Waymond Jordan?
Yeah, 5'9", 5'10", 210 pounds. So, he's got that good thickness to him. He has elite contact balance. He doesn't get knocked off a spot too often. He does have some speed, some long speed concerns, but he's got great quickness. So that kind of, its initial, kind of zoom, that first 10 yards, he's going to make it look fast. When you get him outside of that, though, I don't know what I have concerns about his long speed. But with that kind of great quickness and in that first 10 yards, that really good burst,
that matters.
It matters, and he can definitely break off some long ones because of that.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to running backs, I know we definitely want those guys that can break off those bigger plays, but that matters in those first 10 yards because if you're able to move the chains, you're going to see the field. And a lot of these running backs, we could look at maybe like a Saquon Barkley. I'm not comparing him, but I'm saying sometimes you have Barkley go in there, and then all of a sudden he breaks out the big play, right? And that's something we could potentially see something from Waymond, just continuing to beat up on the defense and then eventually breaking out that big play for them as well, which he does do.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of a little bit quicker Katron Allen, honestly.
Okay. I like that. Katron Allen's nice. Hunso, man, our guy from Fourth and Fantasy. Appreciate you joining in. We got another guy in here. Amore, appreciate you joining in as well. Let's talk about one more running back here because I will really talk about because I think he's on the rise here is BYU running back LJ Martin. This is a guy where we knew he was going to get the work going in just simply because BYU didn't have the great offense around, especially with them losing Retzlaff, him going to Tulane there, and then bringing in McMyer as well. There was opportunity for LJ Martin to really get the bulk of the carries. I feel he's someone that's going to continue to grow. He does have a fumbling problem, so hopefully he gets that under control. But once he does that, he is a solid, strong runner that can run through your tackles, and he can have that home run type of speed as well. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, to me, you remember Alfred Morris?
Yeah.
Play for the Redskins. That's who LJ Martin kind of reminds me of. He's not overly fast, but he is going to, he doesn't mind doing a lot of the dirty work, and he can catch the ball a little bit. That's kind of my comp for him is Alfred Morris. He had a solid few years there. And I think that's kind of what LJ Martin's going to be able to do.
Yeah, that would be big if LJ Martin is. I mean, some of these guys with the running backs, you just see those good 2 years, then you could obviously want the ones with longevity, but sometimes you just need a guy to come in and help you win, right? So
right, but but a guy like LJ Martin, you're not really you're not expecting Nick Singleton production, right?
Right.
You're expecting a guy that's it's going to be the towards the end of your bench, it's in a dynasty league. You just want him to be able to produce a little bit, and if he can produce the way Alfred Morris did those first couple of years, I think that's pretty solid.
Right, for sure. Hunter's coming in. Marlon Hardy is my favorite running back now. Love that guy. Hunter, my guy. We did talk about Marlon Hardy earlier. He is absolutely a beast. His schedule, the remaining schedule, we're definitely gonna see what he's really about. But so far, he's looking like he was at a lower level, but now he's at elite level with the SEC. So we agree with you there. We do love him. Now let's go into some wide receivers here. We're going to start off with UConn's wide receiver, Skyler Bell. Tommy, tell us about Skyler Bell here.
Yeah, I love this guy. He's right at 6 foot, about 185, 190 pounds. He profiles as a slot receiver in the NFL, even though he is able to play a little bit on the outside. But honestly, you want this guy playing in the slot. He's a solid route runner. He's got really good speed. And he honestly, his ADOT isn't overly high, which is really perfect for that kind of slot receiver.
He's the guy I can see every year. We see it that slips into like the second or third round. Every year we see a wide receiver that doesn't get a lot of buzz because they're a not so great program as far as what they're doing on a football level. And he's one of those guys that can't see slip in there where people, it comes draft time, he gets drafted and people are like, what? A kid from UConn, what's happening there? But it could be something like Skyler Bell actually sneaking in there because as you mentioned, the profile fits to be a nice slot, which is kind of what NFL is transitioning to. We have some elite X wide receivers, but I feel like there's more slot guys that just get those targets. Skyler Bell could definitely be into that, but again, it comes into what coach really utilizes him and understands that's where he can have his strength at, not just as the X as well.
Yep.
Another one here, Sabi, we had this guy as a sleeper, but you've been on banging the drum on this guy since we started the Devy Degens this season. Harrison Wallace at Ole Miss. This guy has just continued to grow. I mean, I want to applaud you because this was a guy that you wore on, and he has been everything that you are talking about so far. Talk to us about Harrison Wallace.
Yeah, 6'1", 200 pounds. He's a really dependable wide receiver. He's got great quickness, and he's really good in space, which is why he is the wide receiver 1 at Ole Miss. A lot of people expected it to be, to either be Stribling or Caden Lee. I told you from day one, whenever we first started this show back in April, Harrison Wallace is the guy. Trey Wallace, pick him up.
Yes, sir.
He is going to be the guy at Ole Miss, and so far he has been.
Yeah, and I think Stribling, I know people expected that. The thing with Stribling is to me is nothing but a field stretcher. I don't like to say this because it was upsetting when I heard him say about Jaden Hyatt, but truly, he is really that one-trick pony. I don't think he does have anything outside of what like Hyatt did at Tennessee. He can get down the field pretty quickly, get that ball, but then that's really all that you are using him for right now. I feel like with Stribling, where Harrison Wallace, you can move around. He does have some finesse to his route running. He does have speed as well, and the reliable hands as well for him moving forward. Mm-hmm. Now, our next guy here, we're going to talk about. We kind of mentioned him a little bit last week, but SMU wide receiver Jalen Cooper continues to rise, continues to look better and better, and he's going to keep growing on your rosters. I promise you, he is probably available on your Devy rosters. Any thoughts on Jalen Cooper?
Yeah, he's a true freshman. 6'2", 180 pounds. He's actually put on 15 pounds since he got on campus. Mm-hmm. So he's done a good job of putting on the good weight. He's just guy who gets open, man. Right. I wouldn't necessarily call him a burner, mm-hmm. but the guy can still move. Right. And honestly, we all expected Jordan Hudson to be that guy a couple of years ago. I think that's kind of what Jalen Cooper's becoming, is what we wanted Jordan Hudson to be.
And you mentioned he's not a burner. Your best wide receivers don't have that elite speed, but they can get open and beat that secondary. Yep. DeAndre Hopkins ran a 4.6.
Yep.
Arguably one of your top wide receivers that we saw the past decade, right? So you have those guys. I could see Jalen Cooper kind of molding into that because he does have the finesse and the strength to go up there and get that catch in the air, beat the defenders down as well. But then he can also and beat the defenders as well. So definitely keep an eye on him. That was a good shout out there for him. He's going to continue to grow, as you mentioned, a true freshman. Huncho did say this. He was on our list here, actually. Omega Blake has flew under the radar this year. Omega Blake is a solid wide receiver, too. I mean, 6'2", 182, as we mentioned earlier. He is the guy there for Taylen Green. Though he's a sleeper in the sense, I feel he's more of your deeper leagues. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of guys that would necessarily drop for Omega Blake, but I do like what I'm seeing. I want to see a little bit more. I mean, he's leading he has averaging about 6 targets per game right now, or receptions, not targets. 326 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, bigger size. He moves real stiff, though. I want to see a little bit more fluidity in his movement to actually move him up on some rankings and put him in there. Say, okay, I could drop some guy here for that as well. Any thoughts on Omega?
Yeah, he's actually showing he's not just a downfield guy. The way he was at his last stop. Right. He was just the downfield target there. Right. Now he's actually running crossers. He's running shallow. He's running intermediate routes. Right. He's a guy who they can really depend on getting the ball to. That's probably why they lost this past weekend, is because they didn't give him the ball enough, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you have a guy that should be your top guy. You want to definitely talk about him a little bit more. We mentioned a Tennessee guy earlier in Jalen Hyatt, but another one that got to talk about, and he really is having this breakout campaign this year. Tennessee wide receiver Chris Brazzell, wide receiver 6'5", 200, good downfield threat, but I feel he's not the same one-trick pony as we talked about Jalen Hyatt a little bit earlier. What are your thoughts on Chris Brazzell?
Yeah, he's really improved dramatically since he arrived to Tennessee from Tulane. It was kind of that guy we were talking about earlier, moving up from G5 into a power 4. Sometimes it takes a year or so, really get going, really get acclimated with the speed of the game. And right. Brazzell's really doing that so far. He's like, I believe he's 5th in the NCAA in receiving yards right now. Catching a ton of touchdown passes, really put it on Georgia a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. You really don't see a guy go for 6 catches and 177 yards and 3 touchdowns against Georgia. Right. And and he did. But that frame 6'5", 200, that's really hard to overlook. That just screams outside X receiver in the NFL.
Right. I think that's something that he could possibly be in. And the way he's transitioning or the way he's going, we're definitely going to end up seeing more of him, I feel like, just down the stretch. Our next guy here that we do want to talk about here is going to be Jaden Bradley out of UNLV. This is another guy where, again, I just feel a sleeper is all around him. He's filling into that Ricky White role that had at UNLV. He's just that downfield threat for him, really going in there. He plays a little bit more aggressively than Ricky White did, in my opinion. He's really showing out that he could be their alpha at UNLV, and really he's going to be someone that continues to grow. I think Ricky White was, 7th round draft pick. I think Jaden Bradley has a little bit more finesse, a little bit more strength to his game that he could definitely rise up into a possible 5th round type of pick, but I think there is worth a look there for him. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of wish he played in a different offense.
Yeah, for sure.
We all kind of wanted Ricky White to get more of that draft capital. Right. And I think you're just kind of going to see that same type of thing with with Jaden Bradley. He's just not going to get the capital. So you're probably looking at a 6th or 7th round draft pick there. There was one guy, a couple guys that I was actually, another couple guys I was wanting to mention here. Bryce Lance, wide receiver for North Dakota State, 6'3", 209, has elite body control and the yak monster. We just want to, the question is there, do we, what does that translate to, against better competition?
Now, Tommy, you said North Dakota State, you said Lance. Could it be? Is this the brother?
It's Trey Lance's brother. Yes, it is.
And honestly, I think he fits more of the prototypical NFL type of size than Trey Lance. I know I was a Trey Lance Taylor. I'm not going to say I was definitely it. That partly is due because I went to Sam Houston State and North Dakota State beat us 3 times in a row at the national championship level, but we won't get into that. Bryce Lance does have it. My guy Spencer put me on Bryce Lance. He's definitely a wide receiver you can have. You mentioned that size at 6'3". He has the speed. He has the ability to go up there and get those contested catches and bring it down. Not just bring it down, but also get yards after that catch as well and make some big plays. So he definitely is someone where we're talking about our G5. He's not even G5. He's leveraged, right? I'm pretty sure North Dakota State has moved it. Yeah. FCS, so this is a guy that we could end up seeing being drafted. And we talk about those sneakers that hit into that day 2. If he goes day 3 or day 2 at round 3, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. He does have that type of skill that could really go in there. I think if he goes out there and get a great combine, I think he locks himself in for round 3, day 2.
Another couple of guys who I think could go kind of late day 2, maybe early day 3. Omar Cooper out of Indiana, really solid frame there. He just kind of looks like what Deebo Samuel looks like, just kind of that kind of gadget type of receiver. And then Jayce Brown out of Kansas State has a completely different type of body there, really slight and skinny, but can really move across the field. I just wish he had a better quarterback throwing him the ball.
I think if Jayce Brown was on a different offense, I think we would be talking about him as much as we talk about Tyson in the class. I feel they're quite similar in what they're doing as far as their route running and their crispness to it. Jayce Brown, Avery Johnson is not the quarterback you want. Avery Johnson is a great college quarterback because he has the ability to break out and get some big plays with his feet.
He's just not a good thrower of the ball.
Yeah, he'll get the ball to Jayce Brown, but if you put him on somewhere, if you gave him Sam Levet, we'd be saying the same thing. What Sam Levet's doing with Tyson, I feel like, but definitely someone that I think can definitely grow on some radars, and I know he might be available. I mean, depending again how deep or shallow your rosters are, he might be available, but I think he's worth a look for sure when it comes to it. Before we get into our next one, hold on, Honcho asked the question here. With what we're seeing from wide receivers this year, where would you have Evan Stewart ranked currently?
Well, I just redid my rankings the other day, so let me see where I've got Evan Stewart. I have Evan Stewart at 14th.
14th overall for wide receiver?
14th overall for wide receiver, yes.
That's fair.
I've got him just ahead of Harrison Wallace.
Okay.
I've got him right behind Dane Key.
Okay. Let me check this here. I don't have Evan Stewart in my top 50 overall, not wide receivers, just overall.
No, I'm talking about my wide receivers. I've got him 14th. I've got him wide receiver 14.
Yeah, and I'm saying I know what he can do in the Oregon offense. I want to see that. He's obviously staying another year. But if the Corey Moore keeps on shining, I don't know if he's going to end up staying there. I need to see what he's going to do at that level, because right now with that injury, that does hurt. He didn't really have that full breakout. He was looking good. I think me and you were talking about where last year was like all the home games he would feast, away games they just avoided him. But I want to see him actually compete with this offense and what they're doing to move him up even further. But I do think the ability is still there for him. But also answer your question, Tommy has him at wide receiver 14. Overall, for me, he's not in my top 50 yet. So I don't have my positional ranks in front of me. But that's something where we can see what happens. Now, before we move on to our games of the week and our games to watch here, do keep in mind, I know drafting season is over, but you can still bet a couple bucks here and there and win big on your Sunday nights or Sunday games. So we're going to give you a little insight on the flex frenzy over at Fast Draft.
I know you're sad draft season is over, but just because the NFL season starts doesn't mean the drafting stops, because Fast Draft has the Flex 6 frenzy. You're drafting 6 guys for the Sunday slate against 9 other competitors. It's fast, it's furious, it's fun, and as with everything on Fast Draft, there are no salaries. Woo! So go to draftfaster.com, get the app, use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
There you go. So Fast Draft, as you see the promo code, use DEGEN, DEGEN. Go out there and deposit 50, get 50 back, and go out there and win some money. It's really quick. Fastest draft I did took less than 15 minutes to do a full draft, and you're good to go, and you possibly win big. So go out there and check it out when you can as well. Now, Tommy, games of the week. As we were talking about through this episode, this is when competition happens, and we're going to start seeing some, and we're going to have some bangers this week. We're going to start off with my Oregon Ducks going against the Penn State the Lions. I'll let you talk first because I'm a homer with Oregon, but talk to us about this game and your thoughts.
If they weren't traveling all the way across the country to play this game, I would pick Oregon. But I believe Penn State's doing a whiteout, and it's at home, all the way across the country. That's a whole lot of travel to have to do. I think Penn State's going to take this game. I think they're going to fluster Dante Moore a little bit. He hasn't played in this type of environment yet, and I think he's going to learn a lot from it. But I think Penn State's going to take it.
Yeah, Dante Moore, I think he's in the Heisman race right now, right? Because he has looked phenomenal against someone that hasn't had – he doesn't have a true wide receiver one. Like, he's feeding the ball over to everyone. We could talk about Corey Moore. You could talk about Malik Benson. You could talk about Kenan Sadiq getting in there. You could talk about ALCD, the running backs, as we mentioned as well, getting in there to make some big plays. He is making sure everyone's getting fed, and that's where they have their key to victory. They can't focus in on one guy. Everyone's stepping up to the level they need to win those games. Thing is, I have Penn State ranked as the best team in the nation. I know a lot of people have Ohio State. I've had Penn State since number 1. They haven't proved me wrong to say they are. Ohio State, they were number 1, and to me, I felt right when they kind of struggled against Texas. They're getting better, but Penn State has a solid team. They really didn't lose a lot of their starters from last year. They lost a big one, Abdul Carter, but guess what? They have Danny Dennis-Sutton. They're on the line as well. That can draw some pressure. They have something big. Oregon's front 7 on the defense looks better. They play more aggressively. They play stronger. So Singleton and Katron Allen, if they can shut them down, we talk about all the time. Aller needs to show us what he can do if that running game is shut down. Biggest thing is teams really haven't been able to shut them down. Right. So it'll be interesting to see if Oregon had. I'm sure they're game planning to go against them. Make sure we can't get Singleton and Katron to have the big games. That could be a key to victory. Whiteout environment like that. Penn State's ranked top in the nation. Oregon's ranked top in the nation. The fans are going to come out. It's going to be loud. Either way, I expect this game to really be a good one, down to the wire type of game. I'm not mad giving Penn State home field advantage. I'll give that to them. But I do think it's going to be good, and I'm excited to see what Oregon does. This is going to be a big game for Dante Moore, as you mentioned, because honestly, you talk about Mendoza. If Dante Moore goes into Penn State in a whiteout game and beats them, and let's just say he doesn't just beat them, he blows them out. I think there's easy elevation for him to say, okay, we need to talk more about him. But it'll be a good game nonetheless. Now, our next one here, LSU number 3 at Ole Miss number 13. We talked about Ole Miss's running back in Kewan Lacy. Simmons might still be out, I believe, because they do have drawing a blank. Who's their
Trinidad
Chambliss, who I just picked up and actually did pretty well as well. Chambliss coming in, but LSU is going to ride their defense until they don't have to anymore. That's the key to the game. Seeing what Ole Miss's offense that does have a nice offense with Kewan Lacy, with Chambliss at the helm or Simmons, what they're going to be able to do. Who do you have in this game?
I'm actually going to take Ole Miss. The home, being the home team here. I think their offense is playing so much better than what LSU's is, even with their backup quarterback. And if Chambliss can come out and do the same thing that he's been doing the last couple of weeks, I don't think Simmons gets that job back. Chambliss has been great.
Especially against LSU. Yeah.
Yeah, Chambliss has been great. Look for Harrison Wallace, look for Kewan Lacy. And for LSU, I don't think Caden Durham's going to play again this week. So that's a really big loss for them if he doesn't play.
Yeah, and to your point of their offense, you don't know if anyone could stop them. If Ole Miss comes out scoring, we talk about LSU, their defense, they're going to ride it. If they come out scoring heavy, like 14-0 to start, I don't know if that's going to recover. Like, we just haven't seen that juice from that, or that energy from that offense to go out there and say, okay, they can come back and beat it.
Yep.
So Ole Miss will probably have a game plan, say, we got to go out there and start firing our guns early to make sure we can make it happen.
And that offense is really missing Denbrock this year. That their offensive coordinator left to go to Notre Dame. And Denbrock, Mike Denbrock was a really good OC there. He led Jaden Daniels to the Heisman Trophy a couple years ago. They put up big numbers last year with him and Nussmeier. And so I think that's the missing piece.
Right. Yeah, this will be a big game, telltale signs of what they're doing. We saw LSU beat Clemson, which Clemson's falling off the radars here as of late. And, it's going to be nice to see what they're doing at a home crowd in LSU. I mean, Florida, we could talk about them too. They've fallen off the radars as well. So this will be their first true test, I guess you can say. Next one, a bigger one as well. Alabama number 14 is traveling over to Georgia number 5. Before the season started, we were going to say this might be 1 versus 2 potentially, but it hasn't been that way. They both kind of slid. Gunnar Stockton doing good. We had Ty Simpson on our side doing well. Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. Any thoughts here on what's going to happen?
I saw Gunnar Stockton turn into a Heisman candidate a couple weeks ago. That Tennessee game, he didn't look overly impressive the first couple weeks of the season, but then that game against Tennessee, he showed that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I'm not a believer in Ty Simpson. I've said it from the beginning.
Yep,
that Florida State loss was, in my opinion, was not a good loss for them. I don't think I don't necessarily think Florida State's a great team. And I think Georgia's going to work them, honestly.
And was it a great loss because Tommy came out and said, not you, Tommy Castellanos, the quarterback for Florida State, came out and said, they don't have Nick Saban to save them. They can't stop me. And he went out there and destroyed them. And after that, you can't come back from that.
Well, he was talking crap all summer long, and he backed up. Alabama did not do anything to shut him up at all.
Right. So Georgia could easily single-handedly take this away. And if so, Alabama just slips. Do you think if Georgia wins, and let's say you said they handle them, so let's just say they blow them out, do we see a new quarterback come in for Alabama? At that point, I feel the season's lost, right? You're not in the playoffs.
I don't know. It really did. It depends on what Ty Simpson looks like. I mean, he's looked pretty good over the last couple weeks. But that just doesn't, that doesn't take away the bad taste you have in your mouth over what he looked like in week 1, right?
Right.
Or what he's looked like, in the past playing. And to have two elite weapons like Jeremy Bernard and like Ryan Williams, Jim Miller's supposed to be playing this weekend.
Right.
To me, he doesn't look like what a All-American type of quarterback should look like, right? You know, he was a 5-star quarterback coming in from high school, and he just really hasn't backed that up.
Yeah. Let me see, because when the season's lost, sometimes these coaches don't move to the next guy quick enough. And it's like when the season's lost, you need to just get your next guys in there and give them some reps so they can play and actually get that experience on the field. Because it's definitely different than in practice when you're in front of a full crowd, right? So I want to see that. Now, let's close it out with our games that we want to watch. So these aren't necessarily games to consider games of the week, but still games that we're going to have on our radar this week. First one being Ohio State at Washington. This one, I feel like a lot of people are going to say Ohio State's going to blow it out, as they should, but Washington has some nice assets on them. I mean, Washington has Denzel Boston, Jonah Coleman, Devin Williams, I think, is a good quarterback that doesn't get enough buzz. And there is potential where they actually, show them a good game and not just have Ohio State blow them out. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, with it being at Washington, I mean, this is another kind of thing, having to travel all the way across the country. The Big Ten's kind of a mess like that, right? Big Ten and the ACC a little bit. It's kind of a mess like that to where teams are having to travel all over the place in order to play. And that can really take its toll, especially whenever, you're probably not leaving until Thursday. So, you're getting in late Thursday. You're probably, just kind of doing a little bit of a walkthrough on Friday, but you're not getting the proper rest because that plane ride's not easy. It's still going, 30,000 feet in the air. Yeah, still going 30,000 feet in the air. It's still going to take a lot out of you. That the altitude, is really hard to deal with. Especially whenever, you're kind of going back and forth, traveling, side to side, all over the country all season long. That's why NBA teams. That's why NBA teams, whenever they do it, they stay out there for a while, right? NBA teams. So the Lakers are going to travel out east. Guess what? They're going to go to New York. They're going to go to Brooklyn. They're going to go to Boston. They're going to go to wherever while they're out there. They kind of knock all those places out at once. Obviously, football's not like that. You play one game at a time. I think this. Honestly, I think this is an upset alert watch.
Oh, there you go. Breaking news, upset alert. Washington over Ohio State, number 1 ranked team. It's at Washington, so hey, I'm not mad at it. If it is, this is your opportunity to go get Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston right now, because if this is an upset, you're not acquiring them all season. I'll just say that.
I mean, I've got Jonah Coleman as RB4 in my rankings, so
yeah, I think he's a great running back. So I mean, you're probably not able to necessarily acquire him, but there is opportunity there for him to get more in there as well. Now our next one here, Cincinnati at Kansas. You kind of mentioned Sorsby a little bit. Then Kansas has Jalen Daniels. This will still be a big one, a good Big 12 matchup, and potentially seeing who's going to ride it on top there. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Cincinnati, Kansas. Brenden Sorsby against Jalen Daniels.
2 quarterbacks that are fun to watch.
Yeah, 2 quarterbacks are fun to watch. 2 quarterbacks that I think have an NFL future. I think Brenden Sorsby is quickly rising up rankings, quickly rising up draft boards, and I think Jalen Daniels, if he can stay healthy, that's been his problem. Kind of had that back issue over the last couple of years. He seems healthy this year and is really putting up a good season so far. He's got good size also. I mean, he's a big, he's a thick quarterback, 225 pounds. But he has great mobility. He's got a decent enough arm to be able to make the throws.
Sure.
I'd be really interested to see kind of what his draft stock starts to look like.
Yeah, especially if he goes out there and wins. And again, Big 12's kind of up for grabs, so there's opportunity there for it as well. I know you were looking at Jared Goff and Amon-Ra. You said you needed them. They scored an 18-yard touchdown.
There we go.
Now, our next one here, TCU at Arizona State. Now, this one truly could be who we're looking at, the Big 12, TCU at Arizona. We talked about Josh Hoover. We talked about the breakout from Aaron McAllister. We've said Jordan Dwyer. Obviously, on TCU or Arizona State, yeah, Sam LeBet. You have Jordan Tyson. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, if Kevorian Barnes plays in this game, I think TCU wins it. If he doesn't, and they become really one-dimensional the way that they kind of were this past weekend, I think Arizona State can pull it out, especially with it being at home in Tempe. That whenever Arizona State lost to Mississippi State, that was kind of looked at as a bad loss. But the way Mississippi State's been playing, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad loss anymore.
Right.
They did just Arizona State did just take care of Baylor over the weekend, who I'm extremely high on. You know that.
Right.
They have some really good weapons there. Sawyer Robertson, Michael Trigg, Bryson Washington, Josh Cameron can go on and on. I think Arizona State is kind of starting to find it a little bit, especially late in that game. They seemed like they found it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, this will be a follow to watch. The Big 12 right now, I'm really intrigued because it really is up for grabs on who can win it. There's a lot of strong teams in there, and they're really beating each other up left and right. This next one here, Georgia Tech, number 16 at Wake Forest. I'm excited to watch this one because two running backs that aren't getting much love. I know me and you have talked about them. Georgia Tech's Jamal Haynes, and then Wake Forest, Devon Claiborne. Two running backs that definitely have mobility in their game as far as getting around their blocks or getting between the tackles, has some speed, has some elusiveness. Damon Claiborne's more your bigger back, can go out there and bruise you. With Georgia Tech, Jamal Haynes is more elusive, more speedy for you as well. I was saying if you loved RJ Harvey last year, you're going to love Jamal Haynes this year. But what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think Jamal Haynes is a little bit smaller. He's about 190. It's a little slight, but again, kind of like a guy I mentioned earlier, Bucky Irving. He's only like 195, so it's not like he's a big guy either. But I'm really high, on Claiborne myself. I've been saying it, for the last couple of months. I think he has a pretty good NFL future. And with running backs, it's all landing spot dependent, right? So we want to see both these guys go to a really good spot to where they can shine.
For sure. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some time there or some opportunity there for him to continue to shine there. Our last one here before we wrap it up, BYU number 25 at Colorado. The reason why I had this one on here is I want to see BYU continue to succeed. Bear Beckmeyer, doing great things out there. Then you have LJ Martin, as I mentioned, Chase Roberts. You have opportunity there, and I feel a lot of people kind of writ them off when Retzlaff left, and they're looking great. I feel BYU is a strong contender for that Big 12 title. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Colorado stinks. Honestly, I want to see I need to see more Chase Roberts. This was supposed to be his year. And then Retzlaff transferred out, and now he's trying to work his way back in with that new quarterback, right? So I really need to see Chase Roberts get more volume, get more work. But as far as Colorado's got nothing I want.
Yeah.
Amarion Miller is okay. But there's just nothing special with anybody there.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I want to watch it, because I feel, there's nothing special, but they're going to upset someone, and it's going to be bad, but I don't think it's BYU. I think BYU's rolling right now, and they're going to continue to roll into higher ranks as the season progresses there as well. Now, everyone that's tuned in, we appreciate y'all tuning in. That is all we have for y'all today. As we mentioned, this is our Devy Sleepers episode, so go out there, check your Devy waiver wires or your Devy free agency, see who's available there. Go out there and grab them. Probably not available in your C2C leagues, but we did give you a ton of guys that you could start rostering, so make sure you are looking out for that. Don't forget to check out the Fast Track promo code DEGEN, DEGEN. And if you want all these values and how you can really adjust them and make these trades, go out there and check the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Use promo code DEGEN, DEGEN, to get your first month free as well. We have our Devy rankings in there, so all these guys we listed, go out there and see what you can get the value for them as well. For everyone with the Devy Degens, we appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm SC Romero, my co-host Tom Harvey, and we will see y'all next Monday. Later.